Hi, and welcome to Reality Check. I'm your host, Lou Meyer, and this week on our holiday show, we're especially privileged to have Molly Dick from Apple here to talk about some new traditions for Christmas.
Hi, Lou.
Molly, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
This is great. Yeah, so, folks know the Christmas tree and, shopping for Chinese products and stuff is a really important thing to do for Christmas. And the Apple Center's come up with quite a sizable list of new and improved ways to celebrate the holidays. And Molly's here to talk with us a little bit about some of those ideas.
Yeah, so people like to celebrate family. They like to celebrate community, coming together. A lot of people travel during the holidays, and holiday travel is one of the biggest things that impacts our environment around the holidays. Travel, I think somewhere around 10% of all travel is holiday travel, and that's a lot of plane trips. That's a lot of carbon released into the atmosphere. And so, cutting down on travel or traveling by rail or carpooling or those types of travel is a really important thing for people to do during the holidays. Also, part of that coming together and gathering is things, people want to come together and celebrate the holidays, and maybe instead of watching a football game, go for a hike or go count birds in nature, or spend some time out together celebrating and doing something together in nature is another good way for people to sort of come together and get that community gathering feeling.
Yeah, we do. My family does a buttermilk trail hike on Christmas morning.
Along the Yuba River.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
That's a beautiful hike. That's a good one. Also, I know several people who like to go sledding or like to go bird watching or hiking or volunteering, whether it's serving meals for homeless people or, people who can't maybe cook their own Christmas dinner, and going and serving meals is a really great community service thing to do that people can do together. And then you're celebrating as a family, but also celebrating and being grateful for what you have and giving back to the community.
Yeah, being grateful, that's like, if we take it back to what Christmas is all about, and I kind of made a joke about the Chinese toys and stuff, but really it's about, celebrating humanity and celebrating, some higher consciousness of some sort, not about consuming. So, that said, there are a whole bunch of things we could think about. Even like the volunteer idea is excellent. There are so many places here where folks will put together meals for the homeless, or folks who can't afford their own meal. A lot of the churches, they all need volunteers to come in and help out. People to bring food, for instance, as well.
Yeah, and there's so many ways we can do decorations. Light is part of every religious tradition in this time of the year because it's the darkest time of the year. Where the days are the shortest, people get more depressed in the darkness, and so light is always a part of people's traditions, and candles and lights. And now there's all kinds of LED Christmas lights and various things people can do. But also think about, on the decoration side of things, getting a live Christmas tree, or just decorating a big houseplant if you have one, or if you've got a lot of manzanita on your property or cedars that are taking over, think about culling a tree that needs to come out anyway, or can be cut down as a fire safety, precaution as well. Or decorating a tree outside with things like edible cranberries and popcorn and pine cones with seeds and peanut butter on them, which is a great activity for kids to do. And then you can see all the birds come and eat off of that tree, and then you're giving something back to the birds during this season as well.
Well, that's a great idea. Yeah, I love that kind of stuff. And I didn't even think about that, culling a tree off your own property. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's what my family, when I grew up, we always did. I grew up in the Midwest, and there were lots of just random cedars that had grown up in the pastures in different places. And so I've never actually been to a Christmas tree farm. We've never went and purchased a Christmas tree that was grown on a farm, because we always just culled one off of our property. And that probably is a little safer, because most Christmas tree farms use a lot of pesticides and chemicals to make those trees look so perfect. So you're kind of bringing that into your home, which is another whole issue.
Yeah, and you have to drive there to get the tree and drive home.
Right, rather than just dragging it on a sled.
Man, well, actually, with our environment here, it takes you about 20 minutes, and you could be out in the snow. Certainly, great opportunities to go out and experience the environment instead of sitting around at home.
And that's a good example of, giving the gift of experience instead of buying something from China or, buying something that you think you need to purchase something for someone. Think about what does that person enjoy doing and give them that gift of experience. I mean, even something like, making coupons to have a coffee date once a month with that person so you can catch up and get to, catch up with them and spend time with them. And, giving someone, a little packet of these handmade coupons is a really special gift. And then you're also spending the gift all year and spending time together. So that's another example of avoiding buying stuff.
Yeah, and we years ago when my son was homeschooled, he was part of Twin Ridges, and Betsy Abrams, who was his teacher, started interesting the kids in the Heifer Project. And what that does is bring animals and food or actually it is animals because to the third world countries and poorer folks, and allow them to you chip in a certain fund and amount of whatever money you can into the fund, and then it buys a heifer or chickens or some other livestock or something for a needy family. Yeah,
and that's so important for those families to be able to feed themselves and feed their communities, and it really builds independence and self-reliance among people who struggle to find their own food, and it's a great example of realizing during this time how fortunate we are to live in America and to live in our community here and to have everything that we need for the most part, and to just acknowledge and be grateful for that and to give back to someone in need is another great way to celebrate the holidays.
We were talking before the show, you were talking about the gift of food, and we came up with, there were a lot of opportunities to do that. Can you talk a little bit about those ideas?
Yeah, especially in this season or this economy this year, I think food is going to be an important way for people to give back. And there's a lot of local food that you can purchase as a gift for someone that's really nice. Especially in this area, we have a lot of mandarins and citrus, and that's kind of a good holiday tradition. You can even have mandarins shipped to someone pretty affordably if that's something you want to do, and give someone the gift of food. Also, there's lots of local jams and storage vegetables and meat. We have actually quite a few local farms who are growing chickens and turkeys and beef and lamb, and so you can do that. And the best place to figure out where you can purchase local food is to look in the Nevada County Farm Guide. So I brought one of those to show you what that looks like. We have these available at the Apple Center, and they're available other places around town. And if you look for this logo, the Nevada County Grown logo, you'll find food that's made or that's grown locally. Several grocery stores also supply local food, and they use this logo to help people identify what's grown locally.
We have a lot of organic farms here, a lot of sustainably conscious folks doing things for the community. It's really an amazing place.
We really do. And even in Auburn, there's a year-round farmer's market. So every Saturday morning throughout the entire winter, you can buy local food from the farmer in Auburn. So we're hoping we'll eventually have a year-round farmer's market here in Nevada County, but that's the closest one so far.
The one you guys put on in Nevada City is really a lot of fun.
Thanks. It's a great market. We're glad that it's growing and it's expanding and growing more to supply more local meat, which is something people don't historically think about at a farmer's market, is being able to buy meat. But you can buy frozen chicken and frozen beef, lamb during the later part of the season, eggs, all of that straight from the farmer. And the other exciting thing about what I'm seeing in the local food production scene is just the age of the farmers coming down and down and down. There are several young farmers in their 20s who are making it happen, both vegetables and meats. And so that's an important part of supporting our local economy and celebrating food and celebrating being grateful for where our food comes from and thanking our farmers for growing it for us.
Absolutely. I moved here from Sebastopol, and the folks, the permaculture group there, a lot of these young folks would graduate from the Occidental Art and Garden Center, where they had a permacultural degree. I think it was a degree or certification program. Anyway, they would come out, and if you had land and you wanted to turn your land into a farm or even gardens, if you would buy the materials, they would come out and volunteer and set your place up for you in a permacultural situation. So that in permaculture, I don't go big long song and dance about it, but it puts the things that need the most attention closest to the home. So it's really thought out in a way, and it also allows, if you have a downhill area, you'd have the water trickle down. So instead of having to put a lot of human effort into it, things would take care of themselves. It's a really cool way to do it, and any size piece of land can do that.
Yeah, that's a great example, and that reminds me too that the Wild and Scenic Film Festival is coming up. I talk about a great example for people to be able to give a gift of experience. Buying tickets to the Wild and Scenic is an amazing experience, and the day after the Wild and Scenic Film Festival, Monday, which is a holiday, Martin Luther King Day, Apple is going to be partnering with Living Lands to host a permaculture workshop for people who want to do some action after being inspired by the films and ready and feeling like they want to do something. We're going to start a series of workshops partnering with Living Lands Agrarian Network, which is a nonprofit group of farmers here who are starting a new site in Nevada County that will be a permaculture teaching site. So that's a really exciting thing that we're launching, and that's another example of giving the gift of experience. A membership to Apple and or a gift certificate where people can participate in these workshops throughout all of next year would be another great idea of a gift that isn't made in China.
Yeah, right. What's another interesting thing about that, and this is kind of a segue off the Christmas thing, but they're looking at how do we walk away from tourism and have a better identity for our community and what kinds of things. And with these sorts of opportunities available, a lot of young folks can come from all over and learn how to grow sustainably and how to work that permaculture process. And there's this place is rich with that. A couple of years ago, I went with Richie Marks, who's a teacher at the school at Iowa Hills School. Made an agreement with 3 or 4 of the different organic farms up here, and the kids in his class would come. The food would be grown on the farms. They'd harvest the raw materials, and then go ahead and make a dinner for the Board of Education of their various schools. And in that way, they got to learn all these different ways of growing things and to meet all the folks in the local farms.
Yeah, and a great way to celebrate gratitude.
Yeah,
to have that meal together.
Gratitude, what a concept.
So if people, decide they need to buy a gift, a physical thing that they want to hand to someone for the holidays, another big impact the holidays have on our planet is all of the waste that's generated from wrapping. And, we wrap all of these gifts in this paper, and most wrapping paper is not recycled. It's virgin tree paper. And, then we don't, the way my grandmother used to open those gifts with her letter opener and save all of the paper and reuse it. Most families don't do that either. And so we end up with mountains of trash. And in fact, the average American's waste increases 25% during the holidays. Wow. And so we're generating a lot of trash. And so, one way to reduce that impact is to think about creatively wrapping gifts in other ways. So, here are some examples: grocery bags, making your own gift wrap, making your own ornaments, using buttons as decoration for, these papers, or stamps, making stamps out of potatoes or buying stamps. Either way, you can get really creative about that. Wooden boxes, creating gift boxes, all kinds of different papers that can be decorated in ways. And then one of the other great reusable methods would be to use fabric sacks, and there's more available sacks that are being made, and this is an example of one that's made in our community by a woman who we asked her to use apple fabric for being sold at the Apple Center. But this is a little gift sack, but that you could put a jar of jam in that you made, or you could put some locally made soap in, or something else, and give your gift in this beautiful little fabric sack, which then can be saved and re-gifted next year and given to someone else as a beautiful sack. So, that's another way to cut down on the waste and really think about, each piece of the holidays and how that has an effect. So, gift wrap is a big one.
Yeah, well, all of these things, we really need to re-educate ourselves. I mean, the sustainability doesn't, just mean vehicles or anything like that. It means everything we do. You want to examine the way you spend your life Do you create waste? Do you reuse things? How can you lower your impact on the environment? And it's your own, water and air quality and food you were talking about here.
Yeah, it's not so much the what we do and why we do it, it's how we do it. I mean, we can look at the how part and tweak that a little bit and make a big difference. How we're definitely going to eat. We know why we need to eat, but how do we eat? How do we choose the foods that we eat? We want to decorate our homes. That's an important part of what we do. But how do we do it? How can we do it in a more sustainable way?
Yeah, and what do we do with what's left over after we do things? How can we reincorporate that rather than just put it in a landfill?
Yeah, and some countries are way ahead of us on that. We have a local volunteer at the Apple Center who moved here just a year ago from Sweden, and Sweden has a 95% diversion rate for trash.
Wow.
And it's because they have regulation that means that if you make something, in the plan of making it, you have to have a disposal plan for that thing. So the packaging on anything has to be able to be recycled or reused in some way. And they burn a lot of material so it has to be able to be burned cleanly. So they burn for electricity and for heat, and then they compost a lot. So those are the two ways that they get rid of most of their waste, and only 5% actually ends up in a landfill situation.
Somebody told me that the shiny paper or any of those wrappings, you really shouldn't be putting that stuff in your fireplace, that by burning that you're creating more toxic waste in the air.
Yeah, you
I don't
definitely...
think people know that. They just think, let's make a log out of our Christmas wrappings, but that's not really a good idea.
Yeah, burning in general can be problematic, and you should definitely know what it is you're burning, and depending on the method, what sort of stove you have or how clean it burns, and all those things are definitely related. But I wouldn't encourage people to burn their wrapping paper.
Yeah, well, that saving the wrapping paper thing you were talking about, we do that. And a couple of times, my friends will call up saying thanks for the gift and go, hey, by the way, you sent me the same card I sent you last year. My wife will cut the front off the card and then make another card out rather than just toss it,
Right.
And the wrapping paper, the same thing. We have one friend who really pays, she pays attention to her wrapping paper, and everything that comes looks like a piece of art. So we always save her paper and put it on something for somebody else.
Well, and it can become a collage, or you can decorate it. I mean, especially with children, it's such a great artistic experience to make a gift, wrap a gift, and decorate that gift.
And make ornaments, too, for that matter.
Yeah, all of those steps are a really great artistic opportunity for children.
That's it.
And adults.
The arts is the first thing that seems to go away as soon as the economy tanks. So coming up with creative ways of not having to buy new ornaments every year or buy packaging, certainly a couple of crayons and some old stuff, and kids go crazy.
Yeah, crafting is becoming much, much more popular, and that's a great thing. And actually, another thing to think about on the shopping front is if you're going to be buying gifts, think about where you're buying them from, or what it is that you're buying, and not just buying at a local store. That's a really good first step. But if you can buy something that's locally made at a local store, then that money's really staying in the economy. If it's something that local store had to get from a distributor halfway across the country, then a lot of that money isn't going to stay in the local economy.
Yeah, really good point.
So, yeah, looking at where you're buying it, and like you were saying, looking at that made in China. Can you buy something that's made in Grass Valley or made in Northern California versus made in another country? Really will help our economy in this time and keep those dollars circulating locally.
Even
and that's
a thrift store, and a lot of
Exactly.
things, we'll look into thrift stores first to see if there's something we can get.
Yeah, we have over a dozen thrift stores in this community, and most of them benefit a nonprofit social organization, whether it's Hospice of the Foothills or it's cancer research, or whether it's Salvation Army. There are so many thrift stores that have great stuff in them that people can use, and you can dress it up and make it into a really special gift for someone. That's part of the reason that at the Apple Center we have a small gift shop, is we wanted to provide a venue for local craft people and local food producers to have a place that they could sell their wares locally. And so we highlight that, and we have everything from olive oil and jam to cards made from local artists to local books. Like there was a new book just published by the Yuba Watershed Institute all about the Yuba watershed and people's stories and their experiences in our place. It's called The Nature of This Place, and it's a beautiful, beautiful gift for someone who loves the Yuba River, or loves our area, and loves the forests here. And that's available at the Apple Center, and that's the type of gift that, you purchase that and you give it to someone and you give them this wonderful book with these beautiful stories in it, but then you're also giving to Apple as a nonprofit, and then you're giving to the Yuba Watershed Institute as another really important local nonprofit that's here to protect and promote our watershed. So, those are the types of gifts that you get the most bang for your buck.
Absolutely. Another thing you can do is being a volunteer on a regular basis for any coming out to Apples, find out what's going on, what can I participate in.
Yeah.
It's up to all of us to participate in our community. Heck, Gail, Woodman, who's been on our show for a long time, I met her at an outdoor event, and she said, I saw you on TV saying, hey, you guys watching TV, get off your butt and get out there and volunteer in the community. She says, I'm doing it. And she's been a volunteer with us and at NCTV, and a lot of her friends as well. People, start to hear that message, and they think, yeah, I get some free time.
Yeah, and volunteering is such a great way to give to this organization, give to the community, but also give to yourself. It's something that, people really feel personally rewarded by, and it's so wonderful for me to experience that with all of the Apple volunteers, and it's such a great growing family of people who really feel good about themselves, about spending time at the Apple Center and being part of the work that we're doing and volunteering. And it's a really great way for people to stay connected to the community and to feel and to build new relationships and to feel like they're really part of what's happening.
Sure. Also, my son's going to be going to college in a couple of years, and one of the things we found out from the older kids is if you're trying to get into school, they're not just necessarily looking at your grades, they're looking at your community involvement. What kind of volunteer work have you done? What have you done to help support your community? It's a valuable thing, and being able to do something like that, not only are they learning valuable information for the rest of their lives, but they're contributing to their community and possibly their own education.
Yeah, we have a couple of young high school students who are volunteering with the Apple Center and taking on little projects. And what we're trying to do with them is let them take the lead on this, and we'll support them. And when they're stuck, we'll talk through them what the next steps are, so that they're developing some of the skills, the critical thinking and the problem-solving skills that maybe they're not being taught in school, dealing with a real-world problem and how do I solve this problem. And I know Circle, the South Yuba River Citizens League, also takes on several high school age kids to help them with the river monitoring and other things. So that's a really important part of that community service experience, is having some real-world problem-solving. Yeah,
my son goes and teaches computer literacy to seniors out at the senior center by the fairgrounds. And we have a couple of interns here at NCTV that are learning media.
Yeah, and that's part of the holidays, be grateful for what you have, and, maybe if you're going to make a New Year's resolution, think about, participating in the community more, or getting out there, showing up at a city council meeting, learn about what's happening in your community, volunteer with a local nonprofit, just figure out what your interests are, and you definitely, every person has skills that they can contribute to this transition and to this process of building more community, building a sustainable community as we move forward.
Yeah, giving doesn't mean stuff.
Exactly. Give yourself to your community, give yourself to your family and friends. And that reminds me too of someone was telling me recently that the holiday gift that they chose to give to a friend was that they were going to go clean their house for them, because they didn't have time to clean their house and they couldn't afford to hire someone to clean their house, and it was this frustration. And so that was the gift, was I'll come in and I'll clean your house. And that was some talent that they had that they could share with a friend. So that's another really interesting way that people can give back to each other and really give people things they need and want.
Oh, this is great stuff. So we get about 3 more minutes or so. Let's just, before I forget to do this, Molly's the executive director of Apple, and the Apple Center is open pretty much all the time, huh?
We're open 5 days a week, Wednesday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we often have volunteers staffing the center, and so you can come in and talk with a volunteer, see what we have. We have lots of free information on how to get involved in the community, free information about food, about business, about green, the green economy, about renewable energy, alternative cars. I mean, all these different pieces of the puzzle we have a lot of free information on, and we have our whole resource library. So you can come in and just hang out, look at the books that we have available, spend some time in the center and getting to know this whole complex issue that we call sustainability and attempting to transition to a more sustainable community. So that's where we're at.
Right, and pick up a farm guide.
And pick up a farm guide. And lots of free information just like the farm guide. And the center, the Apple Center, is located at 412 Commercial Street in Nevada City.
And the phone number is 478-1700. And you can email info@applecenter.org. Mm-hmm. That's great. So let's see, we talked about new traditions, travel, activities, gathering. We talk about getting together with their family and having a meal, but gatherings can involve an intentional gathering, like go up and clean up a park or go do something. You don't have to wait for the Circle yearly river cleanup to go clean up at the river. While you're out doing a hike, bring a bag along with you and pick up some junk. Yeah, that's a great way to, again, just be grateful and think about this beautiful place that we live in and what you can do to help keep it that way. I like that, and that kind of is part of the spiritual connection there. It's like, let's just take a moment to give thanks for what we do have and appreciate our community. And, by giving of yourself, you get to experience that as well. Well, thanks for coming on, Molly. I really appreciate this. Thank you, Lou. This is great. And thanks to everybody on our crew. Well, I got a crew, a list a mile long. Gail, Sam, Adele, Tricia, Scott, Joe, Terry. Did I forget anybody? No. So all right. So I've been doing the show for a really long time. These are all volunteers that have been working with us to make sure that we get to let you know about good things going on in our community and other folks that are doing good things. They're all volunteers. Nobody's getting paid here for doing any of this stuff. And so another great opportunity, if you happen to know of somebody else who's putting on a show here, if you think you or somebody else might be a good guest for Reality Check, you can email me at loumeyer@nccn.net, and I'll make sure we get a chance to have you on the show. So happy holidays. Thanks again. Think outside the box on this Christmas, and I don't mean wrapping and, or boxes of presents. Go out and take a hike. Appreciate what we have in our community. And thanks for being here. Thanks for watching Reality Check, and we'll see you next time.
Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
When people are mistreated, stressed, or abused, their brains don't develop the way